The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We welcome you to hour number 2 live right here on the opening day of a new week. It is a Monday on the Early Line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We continue to recap everything from a Sunday slate in week number 13 around the National Football League. Week 14, but really regular season finale weekend in college football to break down for you as well here in this second hour. And then we'll take a peek at the Monday Night Football finale of week number 13 tonight at altitude between the Broncos and the Browns. Denver booked as a favorite, and when Denver has been booked as a favorite this year, DRS, the Broncos have been darn good. We'll break down Monday night in just a little bit, but we still continue to sit back in the armchair and recap the Sunday slate too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jameis Winston going on the road after that exciting victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he turns back into a pumpkin tonight going up against the Denver Broncos. We'll handicap that a little bit later. But we do have a lot more to talk about in college football. Here's all I'm hoping for this week because, again, we're not going to know the exact seedings until after championship week, which is this week, which is going to be a great weekend. But the only thing I'm hoping for is the first round. Give me some heat. Give me some fire. Give me some matchups that we can sink our teeth into. That's all I'm hoping for that's going to come out of these next week and a half here.
Absolutely so. And DRS, it will be really important because in the 4-team era of the college football playoff, where winning a conference championship was a priority, it was one of the few guidelines, if you want to call it that, the committee would use to establish who got in to the top and Final Four. How will it factor in this week? Playing in a conference championship game, if it results in a loss, how does it impact maybe not your berth to the college football playoff, but your seed line in the CFB, hosting an opening round game as an at-large team, so on and so forth, and where you are positioned tomorrow night in the 5th week of the CFP rankings? Can you be leapfrogged? Will you fall down in terms of those rankings if you are not playing in a conference title game this weekend? Very important distinctions to be made. But let's finish around the NFL from the Sunday slate. The Commanders had lost 3 consecutive games entering week 13. Looking for a bounce back, it was a ripe spot against the Tennessee Titans, who had just come off an upset win over the Houston Texans. Well, it was a bounce-back spot for a reason. The Commanders in full command yesterday in Landover, 42-19, ending that 3-game slide, winning their 8th game of the year, covering in all 8 victories easily as a 6.5-point home favorite yesterday against the Titans.
They got blown out, right? 42-19. So first you go, hey, Will Levis stinks as a quarterback. Yeah, he does stink as a quarterback. That wasn't his fault yesterday. 18-37, 212, 2 touchdowns. And how about this? No interceptions. Will Levis has a passer rating of 84.5, like a bell curve, Ben. That's like a regular quarterback at 120. So he was sensational for himself. But the problem is you can't put the football on the ground. You can't have special teams mistakes. You can't have your starting running back, Tony Pollard, who was great last week, fumble early on in that game. Before you could blink, this game was a 4-touchdown landslide victory for the Washington Commanders, where the Titans were just chipping away. Touchdown the second quarter didn't matter. Touchdown, by the way, 2 field goals in the third quarter, absolutely hilarious by the Titans. Way to go. That really got you back in that football game. And then you scored the touchdown late and obviously missed 2-point conversion. But that was I didn't see that coming. I saw the 6.5, like, wait a second. The Commanders shouldn't be favored by 6.5. They're barely winning football games, if at all, right now, and making mistakes. They took it to the Tennessee Titans on the ground. Robinson, 16 for 103. Rodriguez, 13 for 94. The 2 juniors getting after it here. That was 42-19 didn't even do that service yesterday. That was an absolute massacre in Washington.
The 2 juniors, by the way, Brian Robinson Jr., Chris Rodriguez Jr., each more than 90 yards and a touchdown. Jaden Daniels,
I am a junior,
also
too,
a rushing.
I shouldn't hate on it. Yeah.
Wait.
You know?
Hold on a second. Did we know this? Did we know that Donald?
Yeah.
Are you a junior because of the right side or because of the other name?
No, I am a junior here. By the way, just a little let me in. Like if we could have got our names right on the back of our jerseys in high school or college, we didn't have those. I definitely would have put the junior on that. So I can't hate because I just think it looked great on the back of the jersey. So yeah, I can't hate on it too much now. I want to be a hater, but I would have done the same exact thing.
Hold on a second. You just said let's get rid of the juniors, and then went on to detail why you would have had junior on your high school or college jersey.
I go right back to like the fit. Yeah, the fit with the junior.
We didn't even know you were a junior until today.
Yeah, see that?
Donnie Seymour, right side, is a junior.
Yeah. By the way,
junior.
Yeah, you want to get really into the weeds here. So I have a daughter, love her to death. But if I had a son, the wife was telling me I would not be allowed to name my son my name. I mean, come on now. Disrespect in this house. You imagine that fight, Ben? If it was a boy and I'm supposed to name him after me and I wasn't allowed to do that, I was being told, that could have been a deal breaker. It could have been a deal breaker.
Why didn't you try to go for number 2?
The third. Nah, you got to be kidding me, man. 1 is enough. 1 is enough, man. Madness. You have 2 and 3 kids out there, people. Madness out there. Madness.
Somewhere running around the world in my mind, there will be a Donnie Seymour III that we would call Trip. Maybe a different time. Anyway, DRS, as we continue to look.
Kid.
What?
Yeah.
Two dogs,
one kid, not the other way around. Yes. Yeah.
This was good. I did not know you were a junior. All right. Elsewhere around the NFL from a Sunday slate. Overtime yesterday in Charlotte in a divisional duel between the Buccaneers and the Panthers, and what a game it was. Tampa wins 26-23 in that extra session, over 45.5, and yet the Panthers cover as a 6.5-point home dog. Bryce Young, what a game he had. 25-yard touchdown toss to Adam Thielen for Carolina to take the lead with under a minute remaining in the fourth and final quarter. Baker and the Bucs get the ball back at their own 30 after a touchback with only 30 ticks remaining in regulation. He leads them down the field, 6 plays, 38 yards to set up Chase McLaughlin for a 51-yard field goal. He ties the game. We go to OT. McLaughlin misses a 55-yarder on the opening offensive possession. Chuba Hubbard fumbles the football for Carolina as they were driving. And then esteemed guest of the early line, Rachaad White, breaks off a big run, 38 yards down the sideline in OT to set up the game-winning field goal for Chase McLaughlin, 30 yards out. The Buccaneers win a crucial game to get back to 500, second consecutive win. Record-wise, DRS, Atlanta did sweep Tampa this year, but record-wise, the Buccaneers sit alongside Atlanta atop the NFC South.
Yeah, shout out the running game now all of a sudden here for the Buccaneers. Last week, 4 total rushing touchdowns. This week, 236 yards on the ground, 6.1 yards per carry. And the arrival of Bucky Irving now as being the lead dog in that backfield is impressive. The one thing we do know is Mike Evans got 12 targets, 8 catches, $118, and 1 touchdown. He was phenomenal yesterday. Baker Mayfield, not his best, and got injured. Tampa should have won. Yeah. Carolina should have won. Then Tampa finally won that game. Very, very entertaining, but some good signs for Bryce Young in big moments being able to step up. He just needs some talent around him now to help him out. And by the way, one of the best catches you will ever see, Adam Thielen in overtime, which should have been a game stealer, turned out before that fumble from Hubbard. Unbelievable. You're not supposed to be able to make catches like that. And also, they robbed him of a miracle touchdown catch in the back of the end zone. I have no idea what the refs were looking at on that call either, by the way.
Bad camera shots? Like, that's the only thing that kept them from a touchdown? It
didn't
make a ton of sense to me either. Bryce Young, a big day. 298 yards, that late passing touchdown that should have potentially given Carolina a victory, a rushing score as well. The Panthers, DRS, who won 2 games, 2 consecutive, have now covered in 4 in a row. There are a couple of bright spots after Bryce Young was benched and his resurgence now in Charlotte. The Panthers, before these last 4 games, were 5-18-2 against the number as an underdog, booked as a dog in every game since the start of last season. They have covered in 4 straight with a couple of victories in that span as well. We'll wrap up the Sunday slate. We'll get to college football up next live right here on this Monday on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Come back and join us after the break.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We finish out our recap of a Sunday slate in the National Football League. Divisional duel in Duval County yesterday between the Texans and the Jaguars in a scary, nasty, and dirty scene near the end of the second quarter. Trevor Lawrence breaking out on a run, starts his slide, and Azeez Al-Shaair for Houston hits him as he was sliding to the turf with a vicious and dirty hit that has no place even in the violent sport of football. Trevor Lawrence had to be carted off the field with a concussion. Did tweet out after the game that he was back home, feeling good, and thanks for all of the wishes. You see it there on display. One of the dirtiest plays that you will see. If Alshire plays again this season, Roger Goodell has lost his fastball. He should be suspended for at least multiple weeks for the Texans.
Yeah, he'll be fined heavily, probably suspended a week, probably going to make it 2 games. They'll appeal it down to 1. We understand that. Also want to bring up that play. So many times, like, I don't actually like the slide rule in the NFL or particularly college football. If you're a runner, it's up to you to protect yourself. Now, sliding is a way to do that. And the thing I liked about this play, which is anything to like about it, Trevor Lawrence wasn't trying to juke the defender when he went down, a la Patrick Mahomes does repeatedly. Like, I'm going to slide at the very last minute, hoping I get contact to my head to draw a 15-yard penalty. That's why it was so bad. Because there are plays that you see a wide receiver and a defensive back collide. It's like, well, what did you want the guy to do? Yes, he hit him in the head, but the meaning wasn't there, but he still made contact. And then there's times, Ben, where you have a guy launching him like a missile, trying to take the wide receiver's head off. Those are wrong. That play was absolutely wrong yesterday. And shout out some of the Jacksonville Jaguar players taking offense to it right away. That's what you're supposed to do. Because sometimes you see those hits, the quarterback bounce right up, and you're still angry. But when you see that fencing and the arms go, you know it's a trauma to the brain there. And you can't have that in the NFL. And also, as I brought up, some quarterbacks try to run that tightrope down the sideline and slide extra late. That wasn't the case. He gave himself up, and he still got drilled into the turf. Can't have that in the NFL.
You see it in the still frames there that we showed. You can see it in the still frames of the actual play from the broadcast camera. Trevor Lawrence starts to slide about 3 to 5 yards before Azeez Al-Shaair even makes contact with him. And even if contact was made, you see it in the still frames that we just showed you. He is starting to launch as Trevor Lawrence's behind is almost on the turf. There was no place for that. Al-Shaair did release a statement a little bit ago on social media with the whole, I never intend to play dirty. I pray for the guy that he gets back up, yada, yada, yada. That was a dirty play, and discipline will be handed out. Houston does win 23-20, by the way. They do not cover as a 3.5-point road favorite, under 45 and a hook. This Texans team, DRS, is going to win the AFC South because nobody else is even really all that close to a winning record. This Texans team, though, has a lot of flaws. They are just 3-6-1 against the spread as a favorite this year. It has been their main blemish with C.J. Stroud as the starting quarterback. 6-11-1 against the number, booked as the favorite since the beginning of last season.
It feels like when you're trying to line up, right? It's Joe Mixon. We need him to get 100 yards, which he did yesterday in a touchdown. We need Nico Collins to be back to that A1 wide receiver, which he has been the past couple weeks. 8 catches for 119. And you're right. You won 23-20 in this game. And also keep in mind, Trevor Lawrence was knocked out early. Mac Jones, who's a bad quarterback, 20 of 32, 235, 2 touchdowns, no interception, a passer rating of 105. That can't happen because you might say this if this was week 2 or week 3, good win for the Texans on the road. And yes, it's hard to win on the NFL on the road, but the Texans are going somewhere. The Jaguars are worrying about if they're going to have their head coach over the next 24 to 48 hours, if he's going to get fired or not. Even though they won the game, you like to see that. You're supposed to put teams like this away, and they weren't able to do that, even with Mac Jones coming in, who probably didn't even take a snap with the starters the entire week.
Yeah, Donnie, it's a good point. It feels like it's only a matter of time before Doug Peterson is canned. We thought it was going to happen a few times already. Midway through this season, Trent Baalke, the GM, his seat very warm as well, which makes what I'm about to say next even that much more intriguing. Jacksonville's a 2-10 football team, but they've covered in 5 of their last 6, which is kind of interesting because teams at this point, when they really have no outlook in a disappointing and disastrous season, the Jags were supposed to be back, giving the Texans some heat at the top of the AFC South. You would think they would just quit, take their ball, and go home. No, they've been covering and keeping games closer than maybe the odds makers expect. I said Houston is going to win the AFC South because no other team really is all that close even to a winning record. That's still kind of true. They're minus 1250 to win this division for a second consecutive season. But the Colts are kind of close to a winning record now, just a game below 500, entering a much-needed bye. Anthony Richardson's overall stat line yesterday, not great, but did come up in the clutch. They were trailing in Foxborough yesterday by a touchdown, 24-17, with just about 5.5 minutes remaining in the fourth and final quarter. AR leads a 19 19-play, 80-yard drive that took up 5 minutes and 24 seconds. He throws a 3-yard touchdown pass to Alec Pierce to make it 24-23. And then in my estimation, Shane Steichen makes the correct call on the road. Indianapolis goes for 2, and they trust their 6'5", 250-pound quarterback, Anthony Richardson, to dive across the pylon. He does that. Indy wins in the clutch, 25-24. New England does cover as a 2.5-point home dog.
It was the right move to make there by going for the 2-point conversion because you have the ultimate weapon at quarterback that you can use to your advantage, and that play is your advantage, not the defense's advantage, and it worked out in their favor. However, Anthony Richardson is so talented. We knew that, coming out of Florida, but you have to be consistent if you want to win consistently in the NFL. He just doesn't give you that. You see the splash plays. You see the effectiveness on the ground. You love to see that, but just making sometimes the simple pass and the simple read here, he's not making them. Now, they won the game, and you credit him for that. I thought they would win and get the cover. They didn't get the cover, but that's okay. But by the way, the Houston Texans, and it's a shame. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to chase them down. They play the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Ravens over the next 3 games here. So if anybody had a pulse and was ready to sort of try to take advantage of situations, we'll see how good Houston is over the next couple of weeks, because that's a tough stretch.
The Texans need a reset. They're on the bye next week. Same with Indy, same with New England. For the Patriots, they've provided some sparks this year when we thought they were going to be bad. They have covered in 4 of their last 6. They've been over in 6 of their last 8. Drake May has some positive signs. 12 of 24 for only 109 yards, 2 touchdowns for Anthony Richardson in rushing score, but 2 picks. Did have that final drive, made plays when it matters, but again, that efficiency is desperately needed. Around a college football Saturday to end the regular season. Next.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The final weekend of the college football regular season is rivalry week. But outside of just rivalries, it's also known as hate week. And boy, did we see that in a big way this weekend and on the final Saturday of the 2024 college football regular season. And there's a lot of hatred in many rivalries, a lot of pageantry and tradition. It boils deep in not a game, but the game between Ohio State and Michigan. And a lot of that is historic, especially for this Buckeyes senior class that had lost 3 consecutive games against the Maize and Blue. Watched Michigan win 3 consecutive Big Ten titles, play in 3 straight college football playoffs, and last year stand atop the mountain as a national champion in the sport. So it felt like on Saturday, against the Michigan team that had just won their 6th game, blowing out Northwestern. And with Ohio State as a 3-touchdown home favorite in the shoe, it was time to release some of that anger. Nope. Michigan wins a 4th consecutive over Ohio State outright as a 20.5-point road underdog in Columbus, 13-10. That was the result of the game. And then it led to the post-game skirmish, fight, as Michigan tried to take the block M and plant it in the middle of the shoe, in the middle of the O. And Ohio State finally took exception to something, leading to this post-game scuffle. Again, we are going to see the end of the flag plant era, sadly, perhaps, in college football because of the post-game activities. You never want to see the history of a rivalry end in a post-game fight. You want to save it for in between the white lines in those 60 minutes. But Michigan made a statement more than once on Saturday in C-Bus.
They certainly did. And by the way, just to get the flag planting situation, like, look, we're college kids at institutes of higher learning, like Michigan men, right? That's a great college school to go and get your education. Let's think this through a little bit more. How about we have the team managers come out and put like the flag base at the 50-yard line? Then you go in there, you don't have to jam it in there. Just place the flag in there so it holds up and you can have your fun at this point. Because I think the anger gets of the actual planting of the flag itself. I love it for the spectacle of it, but you're right about this. You know how college football is going to come down the minute they start saying kids flood the field. Fine universities, a couple $100,000, and you do it again, we'll have even more penalties on top of that. Theoretically, you're not supposed to do this on the other field because you know it's going to stoke a response from the other team. Now, if it's pre-planned where it's like, okay, the game is over, the ceremonial flag planting at center, that could be something a little bit differently. But you know the other team is angry. You know they're mad. You know they're waiting around, and all they see is a group of players go to one end of it, pick up the flag, sprint to midfield. You know there's going to be a collision course where those guys are going to be fighting at that point. It's probably going to be taken away. It's a shame because it is a really interesting point the way it plays out. But let's get back to the game itself. This was the game Ohio State was supposed to be like, you know what? It's get back time. We've been embarrassed the past couple years. You might have been cheating against us here. Now you can't cheat. Now you don't have any talent basically on your team on the offensive side outside of a running back. We're going to get you 35-3, 42-3. It's hammer time here.
Easy.
Michigan came into this game and had a quarterback throw for 62 yards and 2 interceptions, and you lost that game for Ohio State. Then there's so many times we look and say, didn't see that coming. Davis Warren completed 29 passes out of 32. He was ungodly in that game. Unbelievable performance. What did you want him to do? Michigan was horrendous on offense. Ohio State, with their $1 million starting lineup, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, defensive talent. This should have been the easiest victory of the past 25 years for Ohio State, and they got clowned in their own building and flag spiked to end it here. What an embarrassing performance, but here's what happens. In modern-day college football now, Ben, with the advent of the playoffs, Ryan Day would have been fired Sunday morning, maybe Saturday night, because you know what that means? He's not going to the Big Ten championship game, and he's not, with 2 losses, making it into the college football playoff. Now he goes, what do you want me to do? Make the college football playoff, and they might even win a round or 2 or challenge for a national championship. That's the difference. He's fired last year. Now he might get a contract extension, depending on what he actually does in the playoff.
The Buckeyes still have the 3rd best price to win a national championship. Because of the loss, they will not play in the Big Ten title game against Oregon on Saturday in Indianapolis. That is now going to be Penn State. But Ryan Day entered Saturday 47-0, perfect against unranked foes. And you can't even beat this year's Michigan team as a 3-touchdown favorite. Personally, I believe Ohio State should play the college football playoff with an interim head coach. And by the way, it shouldn't be Chip Kelly because that guy was outdueled by Wink Martindale on the other side. Ross Bjork, the AD for Ohio State, saying, though, that he is going to stick with Ryan Day. He has his full confidence. We have so much more from college football now.
the sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas, you know?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line, we continue to recap the final weekend of the college football regular season. Spots in conference championship games at stake on Saturday. Ohio State loses a game as a 3-touchdown home favorite at the Horseshoe against Michigan. Fourth consecutive in the rivalry. They are bounced from the Big Ten championship game. DRS, your favorite college football team is Miami. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about the Canes in just a moment. But really, I think your favorite team should be Michigan. They sold their soul. They risked it all to win a national championship.
Yes.
And they did just that. Sure, they got a couple of show clauses for guys that are never going to be back in college football. Jim Harbaugh celebrating the title still in Los Angeles. They have one of their worst teams in recent memory throughout this season, but they don't care. They just won a national championship. They have one of the richest guys in the world with a new girlfriend who went to Michigan by their next quarterback of the future in Bryce Underwood to stay home. And then on top of that, they still beat Ohio State. How could you not love the Wolverines from Ann Arbor?
Yeah, and again, in a rivalry game that you were supposed to get your head caved in, you actually came away with the victory, which makes it all that much more special because it wasn't like, well, Ohio State won the past 7 games. Like, no, now Michigan is absolutely on a run. This was the run-stopping game for Ohio State to say, you know what? We're going to beat Michigan. We're going to go to the championship game. We're going to beat Oregon. Then we're going to make a playoff run. It's going to be one of the greatest seasons Ohio State has ever had. And now could be turning into one of those like, ooh, the expectations coming into the season with so much talent on offense, maybe the nation's best defense. We're not even going to get a Big Ten championship, not nonetheless even beating Michigan and probably wind up not winning a national championship. And yet our coach is still going to survive that. That's the tough part about it. That's why it was so embarrassing. Because if Michigan came in with 1 or 2 losses and you lost 13-10, yes, you're upset. But, boy, that's a good football team. What a great game it was, 13-10 low scoring. But the way Michigan came in, you were supposed to say to yourself, hey, if we score 2 touchdowns, we automatically win this game. They go, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, let's only score 1 touchdown? And completely embarrassment of Ohio State. But, again, credit Michigan, bowing up and saying the only way we win this game is to just make that team buckle. And they did. I love to see that.
Absolutely so. The pressure has mounted on this Ohio State team over the last 3 years. And it mounted on Saturday for Ryan Day, who looked as confounded and befuddled by the fight after the game as he did for all 60 minutes on the sideline as well. It does not matter if you reach the college football playoff in Columbus if you cannot beat the team up north. And Ryan Day has only beaten them once, and he has lost 4 consecutive. Again, they might make the college football playoff. Heck, they might even play in the national championship game. And I still think there should be some legitimate questions about Ryan Day's job security entering 2025. So, because of the loss, Ohio State will not play in the Big Ten title, but still should be in the college football playoff. Because of a loss in Central New York, Miami will not play in the ACC championship game and might very well be in danger of missing the college football playoff, because it's hard to walk into the JMA Dome and come out with a victory, even booked as an 11.5-point road favorite. Syracuse pulls off the stunner on Saturday afternoon, 42-38, outright as an 11.5-point underdog. I could give a crap about my alma mater's basketball program. They're a football school as long as Fran Brown remains the head coach, leading the Orange to 9 wins in his first season at the helm, in the first victory over a top 10 team for SU since 2017. That was Clemson. But because of the win against Miami, Syracuse sends Clemson to the ACC championship game against SMU on Saturday.
Some are saying the 9-win Orange football team will be more wins than the Q's basketball team. We'll see how that one plays out here in the upcoming schedule. But in this game itself, Cam Ward, 349, running 154 yards on the ground. 2 wide receivers, Yestrepo 148, Jacoby George 121. They lost. Why? It's like Miami should just print out like 3D printing of defensive players and say, we're going to be good. Like that side is handled. It's usually the offense that has the issues. That defense has been so embarrassing this year that it's a shame. And I know you can't transpose teams. Like, put a top 15 defense with the Miami Hurricanes. They're unbeaten right now, probably the favorites to win in college football, even with the schedule they played. But their defense has been an absolute sieve the entire season, which the only reason they have a 10-2 record is because of how good Cam Ward and that offense has been. They were embarrassing in 21-0. That should be game over. Now, I wasn't watching the game. I was out of the soccer field freezing to death. But I saw the first touchdown come on the board for Syracuse, and I said to myself, I already know how this turns out. Like 21-0, get a stop, make it 28-0. That game's probably over at that point. But the minute Syracuse responded to make it 21-7, and you just saw the damn break on that defense where they couldn't get any stops. And then we come down to the final couple drives where Jacoby George with a ridiculous personal foul penalty, which forced Miami from basically a second and goal from like the 1 all the way back. They couldn't score a touchdown. And people were upset that Mario Cristobal kicked the field goal, and I hear you there. But understand this. Touchdown Miami, field goal Miami, it didn't matter. Syracuse was getting the football back with enough time. If they even had 3 plays, they would have got themselves at least in field goal range. And you saw that final drive where, Miami, you have to go for the touchdown. Syracuse says, you know what? You know you're running. We know we're running. You know we're running. Let's just hand it off and walk down the football field repeatedly for chunk gain after chunk gain after chunk gain. That game was over because Miami was never going to get a stop regardless if Mario Cristobal said on 4th and 10 or 4th and goal, let's go for the touchdown. That game was a wrap before that play even happened.
Under 4 minutes remaining, what DRS is mentioning, 4th and goal to go. But from SU's 10-yard line, it wasn't like it was 4th and goal from the 3, and he decided to only take 3. But, Donnie, to your point, Miami's defense has given up a lot of scoring this year, often pretty good up front, 3rd best rushing defense in the ACC for the first 2.5 months of the year, allowing less than 100 yards per game. Syracuse still only just a little bit above 3 yards per pop on Saturday, except when it mattered most in the Quint Allen made Miami never get the ball back. And by the way, the nation's leading passer no longer resides in Coral Gables. He does in Syracuse, New York. What a day for Kyle McCord. 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4,326 this season for the Orange, the all-time single-season record for Syracuse. Nobody had ever thrown for more than 3,750 yards in a single season for Syracuse. Kyle McCord has, And when asked about the game after his game on Saturday and watching the Buckeyes struggle mightily offensively, he said everything comes full circle, and he was correct. So Miami now more than likely on the outside looking in at the college football playoff will not play in the ACC championship game, and I can't say enough nice things about Fran Brown. What that guy has done instantly in Central New York is remarkable. A renewal of a rivalry based on conference realignment. The Lone Star Showdown for the first time in more than a decade, in fact 13 years, on Saturday night at Kyle Field in Texas. In its first year in the SEC, gets the better of A&M, once again a conference foe, and because of the victory, a spot in Atlanta next Saturday in the SEC championship game against Georgia. 17-7, the victory for the Longhorns. They cover as a 5.5-point road favorite. A total in the upper 40s does stay under.
Get that ground game cranked up. That's what we're going to need in the playoffs here. How about Texas? Wisner, 33 carries, $186, 5.6 yards per carry. Yeah. And also you had Ewers at quarterback, 4 for 29, which chipped in for 7.3 yards per carry. That was a defensive struggle that the Longhorns, and I say this many times, I love when teams that are typically high-flying on offense have to put in that defensive effort to show you they can win both type of games. You want to get in a shootout? We got the offense for it. You want to get into a defensive struggle? We got the defense for it. Good win for Texas. Now let's see how they measure up. And in the SEC, they're in Texas, not really SEC country per se. They're basically going to play a road game in a place where Georgia's always been able to play. Let's see if Texas goes into the Devil's Lair, I should say, and win that game. Let's see.
A little bit more on the Lone Star Showdown. A lot more for the rest of the weekend in college football up next. Arch Manning scored. Quinn Ewers did not. We'll talk about it next here on the Early Line. Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Filet Indiana. They would smash them.
What?
Honestly.
You listen to yourself speak. That's not a reality question. They have not played each other. You are using hypothetical.
And they got embarrassed.
As so many
if
teams
they
do.
Won that football. Yes, that's you're
but that's the thing, guys.
correct.
No. Stop.
The only argument is Indiana is a decent football team and a product of their environment.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid, we continue to break down and recap the final Saturday of this college football regular season. In the second half of Texas A&M, the renewal of the Lone Star Showdown, Quinn Ewers was not great. Threw a pick six that gave A&M some life, and then in the ensuing offensive possession for the Longhorns, driving deep into A&M territory, Quinn Ewers fumbles around the 10-yard line. He did everything he could to get A&M back in the football game. Meanwhile, Arch Manning, with a little bit of power and speed, scoring the only rushing touchdown of the football game for Texas. So again, with the victory, the Longhorns in their first season in the SEC will play for the SEC championship on Saturday in Atlanta. And here's one of the peculiar things, DRS. Texas, based on power ratings on a neutral field, is booked as the 2.5-point favorite against the Bulldogs.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And also, Georgia hasn't played all that well down the stretch, particularly to what we thought they would be at the beginning of the season. So, but you also, this isn't getting played in, let's just say, NRG Stadium in Texas or Jerry World. It's like, hey, you know what? We're going to have the advantage here. We're comfortable in the state of Texas. You're going into basically a home game for Georgia. Now, granted, Texas fans are going to travel. They will be there, but not in the same numbers as basically a hometown team for Georgia. And this is a place where they're used to playing in the high stakes here. They've been to the SEC championship, obviously numerous amounts of times. This is a first for Texas here. So if they want to win this game, you can't get away with quarterback play like Quinn Ewers got. Like, you have to get dominant quarterback play in the middle of SEC territory to win this. Texas is 11-1, 7-1 in the SEC. That's a really good football team. It's just a tough draw that they got Georgia in Atlanta for this one.
What's really interesting as well is the fact that Georgia was the favorite to win the SEC entering Saturday because although Texas was a 5.5-point road favorite, still a road favorite under a touchdown in the renewal of a rivalry game. Now it's Texas as the favorites, as they were in Austin, laying about 4.5 points for the first game. Georgia was booked as an underdog since 2021. And, of course, UGA won that game outright. Georgia tested in 8 overtimes at home in Athens by Georgia Tech on Friday night. The jeweled shillelagh on the line in Los Angeles between Notre Dame and USC. If the Irish are playing a MAC team, it's a little bit uneasy. If the Irish are playing anybody else, it's been pure dominance. 10 consecutive victories since that loss to Northern Illinois. In fact, in the 10 games against non-MAC foes this year, Notre Dame has been unreal. 9-0-1 against the spread with an average margin of victory that flirts with 30 points per game. And this game was tight until Jaden Mayava, the new quarterback for USC, threw 2 pick sixes in about a 5-minute span. And not just 2 pick sixes, DRS, a 99-yard pick six for Christian Gray. And then a couple of minutes later to end out the fourth quarter, a 100-yard interception return for the outstanding defensive back for Notre Dame in Xavier Watts.
Yeah, how about USC? So, hey, celebrating bowl season, though, 6-6. Congratulations as they lose one 5-star after another 5-star off of the recruiting commitments here. Not a great season for USC, but they had a chance to sort of get back into that national picture and leave a bad taste in the mouth of the Fighting Irish because their 2 losses are not built like many other teams' 2 losses because of that NIU loss that they had earlier in the season, which was an embarrassing one overall. But Notre Dame playing as well as anybody in the country right now. Where USC goes from this, I don't know in the future. But Lincoln Riley's got a big contract. He's not going anywhere. But what a disappointment coming over to the Big Ten. Thought they might be one of the challengers and wind up at 6-6 on the season. But the focus more on Notre Dame, playing as good as you can possibly play at the end of the season, priced appropriately here entering in to those final stages. They don't have to play in a conference championship game. They will await to see what their fate's going to be and who they line up against.
Yeah. And just one loss for Notre Dame. Only the one loss against Northern Illinois, albeit bad, it maybe feels like to Notre Dame fifth best price. Yeah. What?
No, I was saying if they would have lost to USC, their 2 losses would have been built like nobody else's at that point. Yeah.
Notre Dame, 5th best price to win the national championship at 8-1. The Irish are going to have a good chance. Notre Dame will not play in a conference championship. And because, of course, they are not a member of a conference, they cannot earn an opening round bye. They can host a playoff game, though, in South Bend. They have a great shot of doing so, maybe as that top at-large seed that we shall see based on the bracket. The Palmetto Bowl, an old-school rivalry between non-conference foes, but in-state foes, that being Clemson and South Carolina. In Death Valley on Saturday, top 15 tilt. The Gamecocks, DRS, as hot of a team around the country as you will find, 6 consecutive victories. They upend Clemson 17-14 outright as a 2.5-point road underdog. And their true freshman quarterback, Lenora Sellers, man, he is special. 16 carries for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns, including the game winner somehow, some way in the closing minutes of the fourth quarter.
Everybody was smoking that Dabo Swinney pack on Saturday. Out of the college football playoff, no chance to get in. And then Miami goes, no. We love you, Clemson. You used to beat the hell out of us over the past decade. Let's let you back into the ACC championship with a legitimate chance now to get into the college football playoff. You can't kill Clemson. And by the way, bad performances, bad turnovers, Dabo, what do you do when they lose the football game and it still comes up roses for Clemson with a chance to get in the playoff? It's just the way it is. Not a great Clemson team, but a fantastic close to the season for South Carolina with that tough schedule. 9-3, that's really good, man. That is really good for South Carolina.
In my estimation, DRS, I think they're the best 3-loss team in the SEC. I'm not sure they will get a chance at the college football playoff, but we shall see. Clemson, 2.5-point underdog in Charlotte against SMU. If the Tigers win that conference title, it's almost like what we see during conference tournament week in college basketball. Some bid stealers to the college football playoff could be out there. Other notable scores from week 14 at regular season finale Saturday. Oregon wins big in the Pacific Northwest battle against Washington. Penn State down early against Maryland, scores 44 straight against the Terps to earn that spot in the Big Ten title game. Tennessee handles Vandy. Alabama handles Auburn. And Arizona State and Iowa State will meet in the Big 12 title game, courtesy of some huge rivalry victories on Saturday.
Yeah, we got a lot still left to determine here. We got a big weekend of football to sort of close out the season. Then you get to Army-Navy. Then you get to the college football playoff. But a big show tomorrow on the college football playoff. I want to see it's matched up against who. That's what I want to see.
Donnie and Dubs with reactions on Wednesday. What more could you want? Monday Night Football next.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Importantly, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben.
Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
A recap of the football weekend has now largely come to a close as we set the stage for the final football game of this weekend around Thanksgiving in Week 13, a Monday night finale in Mile High. The Denver Broncos host the Cleveland Browns. 6.5-point spread, DRS, in favor of Denver. Total stands at 41.5. Of course, the last time we saw Cleveland in a snowy night in the land, they picked up a big victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Playing spoiler, hoping to do that here to a Broncos team that right now holds on to the third and final wild card spot in the AFC playoff picture. Denver as a favorite this year has been sensational. When they are laying points, it is for a reason. Does that continue on this Mile High Monday?
Yeah, I do think Denver is better, but also you're trusting a rookie quarterback to win by a touchdown. Never the most easy thing. And also, you do get some of that performance maybe overflow from the last time we saw them. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in a game they probably shouldn't have won. It was a snow globe type of game at home. They handled their business, sort of a mini bye built in. But I do think the buck stops here. And also from the NFL perspective, primetime games are there because we can flex them in or out. No idea why they left the Browns and the Broncos here on Monday Night Football, which is ridiculous. But it is a game we have to handicap and move forward. One team going absolutely nowhere. One team looking to get better by the week and make a playoff run, which looks like the Denver Broncos are probably going to do that. It is chilly conditions in Denver, but not bad, though. No precipitation. We're not expecting snow tonight. Light winds and temperatures in the low 40s to high 30s. Good football environment tonight. 41.5. Actually, though, Ben, sort of play that game a little bit more to the under. I think Denver is going to be measured on offense. Don't make the mistakes. Let Jameis make his mistakes here and sort of handle your business from there. Because if we are looking at two defenses here in the top 10 based on Pro Football Focus, both of these teams are in it. I just think Denver has more to play for and still is a rookie, Bo Nix, the better quarterback tonight that will take care of the football. But I don't know. Like 6.5 is maybe a bridge too far for me to sell me on actually laying that type of number, though.
So the Broncos have been booked as the favorite just 5 times this year. They are a perfect 5-0 against the spread. Again, when they have been booked as the favored side, there is a reason why. But for that defense, DRS, and our total tonight of 41.5, it is intriguing. Of course, we know Jameis Winston is a gunslinger. It is what he wants to do. Are both teams wearing white helmets tonight? Or is that just, we're just doing that? That looks like Penn State's helmet almost. Both teams wearing white helmets. All right, great graphic work behind the scenes.
White
Jesse
helmet?
Metzger. I don't know. Winter.
So they both. Here's
2nd?
what they should do. They should both wear all white uniforms tonight too for this game. At least make it a little bit interesting. Nobody knows who's anybody is. How about that?
That would be pretty good. It is going to be interesting though. Denver's wearing a white helmet and not a white uniform. Like who's not wearing the white jersey? We need the fashion police on this. Blue is what we're hearing.
We got to get the look. Yeah, we got to get the look.
Yeah, we got to get the look.
We need
let's
we need
get
a
that
ruling.
up and let's
we need a ruling.
We need a fashion police because no doubt we need a fashion police from Donnie right side because not only do we want your thoughts on the uniform, but how it impacts the handicap for tonight on this Monday as well. Again, Denver 5-0 against the number as a favorite, despite having the second best scoring defense in the NFL, allowing fewer than 17 points per game. DRS, the Broncos have actually played to the over in 4 of 5 games as the favorite, and the only game that stayed under a couple of weekends ago against the Falcons, when the Broncos scored 38 points and Atlanta only scored 6, staying under by the hook of a pregame number that closed at 44.5. I am a little bit intrigued by this total. It feels like a letdown spot for this Cleveland team after a huge divisional win a week and a half ago now on that Thursday night to spoil the Steelers' win streak at the very least. I do think it will be interesting, though, to see how this game plays out between these two in terms of our offensive output tonight at altitude.
You're right, and maybe the ground games might struggle to get going, which means that Jameis Winston, he loves to put the football up, and also no stranger to throwing 35-plus times in a game is Bo Nix in that Sean Payton offense, where you sort of would say, you know what, maybe the wide receivers would be the best way to go. We know the two top dogs are going to be Cortland Sutton on one side for Denver, Jerry Jeudy on the opposite side here for Cleveland. By the way, Jerry Jeudy reinvigorated here with Jameis Winston at quarterback. David Njoku was invisible in that Steelers game. Maybe he plays back into it 46.5, but there are a lot of other players in the the lineup tonight that you can really buy down on prices if you can pick it correctly. I don't know which way I've decided, but again, leaning towards the under tonight. I just haven't decided which my point of emphasis is going to be. More likely from a Denver side, though, from a Cleveland side.
Excited to talk about the prop breakdowns and that quarterback comparison when we start hour number 3, because Bo Nix's numbers have been sensational. We'll do it when our third and final hour starts up next.